preparing to live stream the meeting.
Welcome everyone to the After Hours, issue number 41, winter 2021, contributors open mic. Welcome to everyone out there in YouTube land. You can't see everyone here who's on Zoom who will be reading today. After Hours traditionally, since our first issue, we've done a contributors little party and issue launch and kind of an open mic for the folks that come out to the party. Since we are doing it virtually right now, this is, here we are, we're here. Right, you can't really see everyone if you're on YouTube, but I do have here Pat Hertel, who's the other editor. The two of us have put together After Hours over the years, and we also have Andy Byrne here too, who does circulation for After Hours. And we're running a few slides. This is the new cover of our new issue, and everyone should be seeing that right now, issue number 41. This is a photo by Mark Baker. For those, since bookstores are not all circulated at this point, you can order a copy of the magazine at afterhourspress.com. We'll run this again later. It's just to let folks know how you can get your own copy of the magazine. Of course, contributors all get their contributors copies, so you'll be getting those in the mail to contributors who are with us today. And at this point, I'm not sure if I'm on screen or where we're at, but we'd like to get the reading going today with a few call outs. Today's featured reader is Marci Rae Johnson, who is the featured reader today, but also the featured writer in this issue of After Hours. We've had a featured either artist or writer in every issue of After Hours, and this one will not be any different. I'm going to, usually what we do with open mics and what I do when I host other open mics is, so nobody really has to go first. I will read a poem just to get us started. And right now, I'm going to read a poem that is in this issue of the magazine. It's called Consolation. It's kind of, I don't know, it's a bit of a loneliness poem, but it's also about men. Consolation. We are men. We touch miles from touch, shed tears in the dark. How it is with this kind of love. I don't tell how she massaged my shoulders, my back, how she made love, or all that there are chilled mornings in March when I can't get out of bed. I hold my details in clenched fists like mortal sins. We understand this kind of silence. Almost shoulder to shoulder, we drink bourbon, float secrets on ice cubes, our heartbreak miles from heartbreak, and we sit together. So that was just a way to get things warmed up. And a note to Kurt, I'm only seeing you on the Zoom. So right now I'd like to bring up one of our first readers. This this would be, Patrick, I'm gonna ask you to start. This is Patrick T. Reardon. It's Patrick's first time in After Hours. And welcome to the After Hours family. Here's Patrick. Don't forget to unmute.
Yes, thank you very much. I started talking without taking off the brakes. Well, thank you for having me in this issue. I'm going to read a couple poems, the 2 poems that are in the issue. The first one's called Lament, and this is a poem that's sort of meant to be the cornerstone or keystone of a collection of poems about my brother's suicide. So this kind of seeks to kind of tie all those together. You don't really need to know that because it says a lot of that in the poem itself. But anyway, this is Lament. Take your fingers and trace the sculpture's skin shards, broken bottles embedded in wall cement top. Thieve over and in for treasure. My brother, untriumphed as he felt, unprotected, unblossomed. In middle night, I miss again high altitude Albuquerque basketball shots, just a game, no harm, no foul. You need to picture my brother raging at my photograph poems, stealing his soul, speaking for him, poking into the wound he owned. None written if, with his fatal gun, he had not tunneled his bullet through my brain and heart and liver in November snow rain on his final porch. I am given flyers for Move On loss lectures I do not want to attend. I'll stay here with my brother. I'll stay here where my brother is half alive still, where I am alive and know my shots didn't fall and we lost, but survived to attend the museum salsa concert with the loose hip dances and all the sheen forehead smiles. I swim survival. No floating for my brother and me amid rocks, rapids of poems, swim at own risk. There is nothing to be done in the calculus of the game, but to run, sweated, wearied, behind the arc, and shoot another 3 that clanks off the rim at an odd angle to the other team, the winning team. He loved a uniform. The back door clenched shut behind my brother as he stood wobbly behind his house and raised the metal. At the baby shower in the brewery, he would have asked for milk glass and had no place to sit and left early. He would have scrunched his neck as I do from some childhood muscle memory, the way others smile as they baby learned or dance or let their hips swing loose just walking a corridor or a tunnel. Outside the museum, the carved head of a giant, unembodied, eyes in bleak black stone to uninterrupted blue high altitude evening sky, unsettled and unsettling, head and sky both, as my brother and I were and I remain. The second poem that's in this edition is called As If Crying. Month money envelopes, unlabeled something cans, irregular clothing, big boy, little kids duty. Shoes on sideboard, morning machine, line up, line down. Church altar, gold, silver, cryptic incense language, holy storm organ, big boy, gowned, bowed with Latin, little kids. Face to hands after communion like the men, as if crying. Signboard, jungle playground, dirt field, alley junking, concrete garbage playground, white shirt streaked emerging crab appled. Blacktop scoured gray-white, wind, feet, rain, creviced, shards of 100 million bottles, brown, green, clear, constellation in morning sun, cosmos in angled light refracted, throne of heaven. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. It was very nice. Yeah, unfortunately, you can't hear the applause, but for everybody out there in YouTube land, there's thunderous applause happening on Zoom. So let's see. Right now, I'd like to ask Suzanne Cosgrove if she's ready to read. Suzanne's been in the magazine several times, and she's an old friend of After Hours. Suzanne, let's hear.
Good afternoon, and hi to Patrick, who we used to work together ages ago, so it's nice to see you. I have two poems. One is kind of in process, and the other one was from After Hours' last issue number 40. So the first one is called Inaugural Poem, January 20th, 2021. On the very same day as hope and healing were reintroduced to the nation, and a self-described skinny Black girl in a splash of yellow and red captivated millions with a poem, a skinny Black boy asked me to get him a piece of cake while I stood at the bakery counter in a grocery store. Head still filled with the white light of a new presidency, I was startled. I'll pay you back, he said, looking up at me. He pointed at the clerk. She won't give it to me. Why not? I asked, turning to the woman. He does it all the time, she said loudly. He doesn't pay. The boy skipped away. Come back, I called to him. I'll get it. But then he ran, winding through the produce stand, and was gone. We have a lot of room to grow. So the second one that I'm going to read is called Love in the Time of Coronavirus. And I wrote it last year, and I thought it might be over by now, but of course it's not. So here we go. Late in the afternoon, the robin begins its cry. The sun slowly shifts. In the cool April sky, more birds chatter, searching for each other as dusk descends. I walk the dog along mostly deserted sidewalks, interrupted only by a solitary skateboarder or a dog walker on the opposite side of the street. The dog pulls at her leash, tracking neighborhood rabbits. They hide in plain view, still as chocolate Easter bunnies. I look upward. The trees, oblivious to human disease, burst into buds. It's quiet as families shelter in their houses, isolated, hoping to escape the invading virus. Perhaps they are like me, lying awake in bed at night, imagining the pain in my side, the humming in my lung is the start of the end. Spring is boiled until I stumble upon a backyard wedding. A young doctor, new to the block, stands tall in a black tuxedo, holding hands with his bride, who's dressed in a white satin gown. Having abandoned plans for a big Indian wedding, they walk alone beneath a canopy of red and yellow flowers. They proclaim their vow to their parents, laptop flickering as priest, family, and friends follow on Zoom. Next door, a neighbor pulls out her violin and plays in celebration. Tiny white lights strung along the back porch shimmer in the dusk as the bride dances up the stairs, groom close behind. They hold each other at last. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Very nice. Yeah, maybe the end of the pandemic is almost in sight, but still a ways to go, I guess. I just was asked to actually write a review of an anthology of Wisconsin poets, and the theme of the anthology is coronavirus. So the poems are interesting, but after a while, you get kind of sad and lonely after reading this anthology of coronavirus poems. But we won't talk about that right now. Right now, I'd like to ask another person new to After Hours, Eugene Stevenson. Are you ready to read for us?
I am. Thank you, Al.
Thank you, Eugene.
This first poem is in the current issue, Weeding Time, for Elmer Andrew Bowen. After 1 year, we kneel on October damp ground, hesitant hands, soft and tender from a different kind of labor, reach to pull weeds by the roots, pull tightly, pull fiercely, the insults from your grave. The heap of discarded green grows higher than the headstone. On rounded earth, grass reappears. The hands that bathed you, clothed you, steadied your walk, now free your resting place from its briared and nettled burden. When the task is done, a west wind sweeps away collective prayers said for you, for your soul, for having lost your undemanding love, for losing you to the steady growth of green and the periodic weeding of time. This second poem is called The Tappet Hen. The Tappet Hen was a favorite wine bar in London where I would meet my daughter after both of our days' work, and we would talk. The Tappet Hen. What a talk we had about way back when, on a cold March night at the Tappet Hen. The claret made her piercing questions clear. The surprise answers strong, despite running tears. I choose not to shrink from hideous truth, choose not to hide in this dark oak booth. Who is this woman close in front of me, who stops the past cold, forces us both to see? She is her mother, Nona, her blood theirs, bombs and lost children. She carries their wares. It is not easy to live life away, but then she chooses to live there, to stay. And the last poem is one of my favorite places, Union Station, Chicago. 1, the ceiling is low, walls high, lamps glare from all directions. Light shafts like broom handles poke the gut, stomach and throat. Meals forgotten or uneaten. This third day, which day of the week unknown. Ticket pocketed for the 6 o'clock morning train. early, the day will not be pea green lost. 2, cab driver quiet, transmission smooth, speed, centrifugal force combine. Taxi wants to hurl its passenger into the backward river. But the ride continues all the way to the strange young corner to find a new building there, new tunnels for two-legged moles, naked, clothed, running for the dark, in the dark. 3, the waitress is old, but age has not dulled her sense of humor. The sandwich is greasy and good. Up high on the train board, odd and even track numbers beckon, short and long distance travelers. Tear them from their phones. Men walk like bullets. Women walk like invitations. 4, there are ghosts on the train. Lights go on and off like eyelids out of kilter. Briefcase and bag are companions. Keep away, old men. Talkative women, ill-smelling bodies. Generators are the music. Force fantasies into the forehead's pain. Pictures in the window pass and time passes, most certainly by. 5, not yet winter, but cold enough. The wind batters. The lake is white and angry. The faces in the crowd are grim. Wear their jaw-set masks like shields, daring an engagement, fearing an entanglement. On the brick wall of a warehouse, a painted ad proclaims, "The House of Time." How long this minute lasts. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm thinking we're going to take a look at some of the artwork. So if so every issue of After Hours, and that's kind of Kurt's cue to get his PowerPoint for the artwork ready. We've always taken a lot of pride in the artwork in the magazine, and I have to give most of the credit for that to Pat Hertel, my co-editor, who usually rustles up some of the very great artwork that we have. So let's just take a second here to take a look at what's in this issue of the magazine. I apologize, we don't have a music track, but you can see some of the great photos and artwork. We have some new names in our list of artists, especially Claudio Parentella, who lived in Peoria, Illinois for a while, close enough to Chicago, but actually makes his home in Italy now. And Mark Baker, who did our cover. So just want to let everybody know that the After Hours you can order it online. We're not in bookstores yet, but we're taking orders. So you just go to afterhourspress.com. I'd also want to take a minute just to say hello and acknowledge all of our friends on YouTube. We have a nice audience right now watching. So to my fellow Zoomers here, the readers today, let you know you do have a good size audience, and it would probably fill a cafe if we were in the real world. So next I'd like to ask to read Andrew Byrne, who is a long-time friend of After Hours, and many years ago, Andy and Pat and I edited the OA Review together at Roosevelt University quite a while ago. And Andy's also in charge of our circulation, so he'll be getting all the magazines out into Chicago bookstores very soon. Andy, take it away.
Thanks, Al. Thanks, Al and Pat, for organizing this. And I think the cover is really a great looking cover, I tell you. Yeah, that is a long time ago. Roosevelt University. I mean, I wasn't married at the time. Al, you were just out of high school. And Pat, you know, there she was behind the desk. So now I'm a grandfather. I guess that's time passing by. I'd like to dedicate these two poems to my new grandson, whose name is Julian Joseph Damaso. Okay. Altar boys. The tepid water streaming in the sink will not do. Me like a chemist testing, my brother like a sentinel, watching, asking, is it cold? He wants it cold to drink. I shake my head. Hurry up. The wind latches on to Father Clifford's hair and drags him in like a griffin out of his lair. The heavy sacristy door swings shut behind. He assembles the vessels and puts on the alb that covers him like snow covers a volcano. The knot of his braided cincture chastens. He almost forgot. The water, boys, make it cold, he murmurs. I eye my brother. He nods. I fill the cruet. Grace or something like it fills the moment. Okay. All right. Starry sky. The starry sky lifted our sights and lent a muted sheen to the field on which we ran at the edge of the woods. The filaments of stars and planets, woven in a glittering span, threads of wind and light, wound themselves around the green fibers of our being and took possession of our ordinary selves. We cast off the tedium of the sport coat, and halting the moon in its tracks, we drew it close enough to put our hand against its cold face and measure its majesty against the stuff of us, the matter of the human race. At the bell, we slowed to an indoor walk and didn't give this heaven a second thought. That's it.
Thank you, Andy.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You'll have to save this video for your grandson one of these days. Next up, someone who's new to the pages of After Hours and who I've only gotten to know in the last year or so, but Gearen, who's becoming a regular with the Traveling Molly's open mic, is now in After Hours, and here she is today. So Gearen.
Hi, so great to be here and in After Hours, and thank you, Pat and Al, for including me and giving these two poems a home. And I'm going to read two poems from my Insomnia series. Of course, I have an Insomnia series. I'm sure you all can relate. I have a lot of material. Yeah, so these are both the poems in the issue. Insomnia ex voto in a city with 21 million. I didn't want to be awake to learn of the 45 minutes near 3 a.m. when cars don't swirl around this corner. I am, though, awake to hear the misted black lit up still with the lights of 21 million. The whole city, its fog and noise, its superior mole sauce, its dueling 7-Elevens, tramping across my small deck, banging on the glass doors and kneeling where I lie. I study my sleeping lover early in our days. Sometimes I fear I'll call him the wrong name. Ex-husband, merely a habit now, long memory, but elbowing his way in sometimes. Today, mosquitoes raged our limbs. At Frida's, we stopped at her bed, short, mirrored, noted the little jar, her ashes. We beheld her braces and corsets, her wild dresses designed to distract from the broken. We split a large hot chocolate on the corner, and then, thinking of Frida and Trotsky, was it true? We took each other's hands and set them right. We prayed for sleep, and I found only rest, thinking of the 7-piece mariachi band on the sidewalk and the 5-peso pieces he handed them as they left. Thank you. And this second and final piece is called Insomnia in the Rural South. Blame it on the air mattress, its swarthy sag. Blame it on the roof-wise squirrels, coons, possums. Blame the rumble of your snore, but it isn't that. I've made this fire all on my own. Blame the fierce justice who left the world her breaths flash. We keened the new year in with family distanced. Blame the click of sleeping chickens. Blame the dinner conversation rough remembered. The candles made an aura, soaked the porch with light. Blame the drafty garage, its own basement. Blame the heart of this, an Arkansas hill. Blame my vigil, new love. I'll keep my eyes on us. Blame the blue light on the new stove, insistent. Blame the air conditioner's purr, a defining steady. There will be no sleeping tonight. I'll hold your bare shoulder in my palm and pray for the rooster, for the teens, pray for democracy and for our private, brilliant future. I'll pray till first light, like my grandmother worked her rosary, till you wake and turn toward me on our borrowed air mattress. Let's drive away today, love. Let's cross braided rivers at the state line, my feet on the dash. Let's invite the sun and this cornfield into the conversation. Love, I'll sleep in the car. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron. I had a feeling you had a whole series of insomnia poems. Thank you. Moving right along. I know that Kurt, there's always a man behind the screen, and just like in The Wizard of Oz, we have our wizard here today, Kurt Heinz. I just want to do a quick
Howdy.
call out.
Hello.
Hi, Kurt. Kurt is making sure that everything works, and everybody out there on
Big
YouTube.
set of crossed fingers on it every time we do this with Elle, so hopefully it'll come out just fine.
So far, so good. And so I'd like to bring up our next reader in the open mic, who also new to After Hours, John Stadelman. If you're ready, John, you got the mic.
Hi, thanks, Al. Yeah, it's great to be here and to be reading with everybody. Yeah, I have a little fiction piece. It's called Make Poison. It's about the people who go to warehouse raves right now. And to make it more interesting, I threw out an acid trip in there too. Why not? Modelo's and carry out Taco Bell. Summer without AC, drinking to deal with the heat, and going full tab to make it through the night. Friday evening and the sun caves in, yellow shards rising as city lights, stark illustrators of the 2020 desolation. A city, a country, a world under masks, secret police everybody knows about. Be cast sitting alone on the porch as the neighbor enters the second hour blasting Since You've Been Gone through the open window. Fireworks, gunshots, what difference, blast open the sky, cosmic flowers blooming. Sip the universe. Don't go with the flow, make one up. Take a quick walk and hope for something to happen. Always hoping for something to happen. COVID just made it worse. The boulevard is an asphalt back spined in greenery. On the vertebrae nestle hammocks, forms and circles, wombed by sad EDM playlists blasting from portable speakers. The spots are shade under daylight rendered now as buttons of night fog. Together alone, isolated safety in the face of death too small to see crumbles against the instinct call of together. The world gone mad has been mad. At least it's summer. At least bikes and cars battle for lanes and music plays through open windows. At least dogs exist. The square, monument, a crow perched on the eagle's marble wing shouting law, law, which signifies make poison. Up and down the avenue, stores with cutouts of lorry watching, and bars on corners where the stupid or obstinate or too lonely drink and pretend, just as we always drank and pretended. The world gone mad has been mad and it isn't ending. It's fucking gone and nobody's admitted it yet. Work and shop and hate and love like before, lie out on the greenery vertebrae in clouds of sad EDM, taking off everything but the masks to masturbate mutually, then go home and wash hands and cry until the Valium kicks in. Touch starved and face-to-face starved, there's a thing we've all agreed not to talk about. And if the tab doesn't kick in soon, the walk will be just as pointless. If you listen hard enough, you can hear it, but we don't talk about it. Watch a show or movie, text them back or don't, doesn't matter, nobody cares, which is freeing in a sad good way. But every move made is under the crush paw of virus, of protests, of people who don't believe in scientific fact that we can die of a thing we can't see. But remember, the world's already ended. We're just catching up. A familiar face among the strangers, Damon, who's back in Chicago after a sojourn turned bender. He climbed into the mountains and cowered among those peaks in a thunderstorm, saw God and ran away, and at the ocean vomited regrets. Into the surf, saw God again in the salty mixture and said, fuck it then, looking happy now. Turns out there's a club for people who are too lonely to care about dying, so let's go. Wearing masks in through the back of a warehouse, down into a basement, Murderville, music shudders the foundations, and it guides silhouettes and mist shot through with lights like rainbow smoke. Like tear gas napalming the loop when the bridges rose and the armored machines in the form of men did what they were ordered to do to protect the skyscraper offices of the white dollar god, make poison. The urge to passively suicide by fun and drink, drugs and strangers never goes away. An all-powerful force, it can be pushed down but never crushed. It's dollar signs over COVID bodies. Murderville basement. Red flags and the red flashing lights, warning the vanillas to go, but who can truly tell what a warning means if you've never ignored it? Dancing, freaky, semen-blooded shit, and the spaces between the bodies filled by the thing we've all agreed not to talk about. And then on a rooftop, Damon and Gregory argue Sartre with freshman passion, but philosophy's just headspace. All the postulations and catechisms and imperatives don't mean shit unless you have something to regret. Stacy, who doesn't wear clothes to draw attention down away from her third eye, chants the chorus of a song the name of which nobody remembers. Old unbreakable fury thudding back up, the fireworks, each boom ripple, bringing it closer, peeling off tattoos, sinewy Velcro, and exchanging them, becoming composites of each other. Somebody sees all of this, but it's not Stacy's third eye. Drugs are supposed to be for expanding your mind, not avoiding it. Fireworks are cosmic blooms of universes dying out loudly, rudely, and the rooftop people yell, firework, gunshot, firework, gunshot. And they all look like acquaintances and part-time lovers from past lives, making poison to eradicate the sickness. Maskless plague rats, not hungry for now, nor horny, nor lonely, just dying, just yelling into the sky until the fireworks die out into silence. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Very nice. Yeah, that was one of those pieces that, you know, when it comes across, you read it and you go, that one's got to go in. So making poison. Thank you. I wanted to let everybody know. I'm sure that most of the people in YouTube and everybody here is on my mailing list, and you've been getting mailings about the Mary Blinn Poetry Prize. There'll be another one this week. Our deadline is February 28th. So if you haven't sent anything in for the poetry contest, there's still time. Our judge this year is Mark Turcutt. And Mark was our featured writer a couple issues ago, and very well-known poet in Chicago, teacher, and nationally known Native American poets. So Mark will be our final judge. And right now I'd like to bring up the last person in our virtual open mic today. And this is David Mathews. And David Mathews was the winner of last year's Mary Blinn Poetry Prize. So David, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Al and Pat, for supporting my work and inviting me today to read. The poem I was going to read now is in the current issue. It's called Chicago Shrimp Shacks. In the Chicago I'm from, working folks cash Friday paychecks to treat themselves to deep fried shrimp from mom and pop shacks that used to be all over. Places with names like Vito and Nick's, Al's, Fat Johnny's. Back then, no one would say some shit like shrimp from shacks will bring my property value down. Everyone waited in long lines out the door like sacred communion to be full-fledged citizens of the democracy of Greece. We dipped those juicy, thick jumbo shrimps like classically trained painters in tangy cocktail sauce or hot sauce with zing, or mixed cocktail sauce with hot sauce together. Back then, no one would say some shit like shrimp from shacks aren't gluten-free. It was a reward for getting by. That was big in the Chicago I'm from. The best shacks for us were in black South Side neighborhoods, big greasy brown bags for low prices. The greasier the bags, the better the shrimp. We would pull over like we got pulled over, and I remember us waiting for my stepdad in our beat-up avocado station wagon with a bad muffler, while the radio played something like Cheap Sunglasses. Most of the time, we feared turning off the engine would strand us on the delicious side of town. Back then, no one would say some shit like, shrimp from shacks sounds seedy. My stepdad talked to the black guys behind the counter like he was talking himself out of the speeding ticket or giving a cleansing confession. Deep fried shrimp and sauce was our transubstantiation. Some are still around like scattered buried treasure. I can find them like an old stray cat that knows which back porches to go to in between licked wounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. I grew up on the southwest side of Chicago. I remember plenty of shrimp shacks. It was the best. So now that wraps up our the open mic section. Who read today? We started with Patrick and Suzanne and Andy and Eugene, John, Cameron, David. Thank you so much. I'm now going to be happy to introduce our featured reader today, and I have something to read from. Marci Rae Johnson is she's our featured reader, but she's also the featured writer in this issue of After. Of course, we always have an extended bio on our featured writers. So I'm just going to read a little bit of what Marci has accomplished. Her most recent book is Basic Disaster Supplies Kit. That was published by Steel Toe Books. Her first collection of poetry, The Eyes, the Window, won the Powderhorn Prize and was published by Sage Hill Press in 2013. Her chapbook, A Dictionary of Theories, won the Friends of Poetry chapbook contest for Michigan authors in 2014 and was published by Celery City Chapbooks. Her poems are forthcoming in Image, Main Street Rag, The Collagist, Rhino, Quiddity, Hobart, Redivider, Redactions, the Valparaiso Poetry Review, the Louisville Review, and 32 poems, among others. So that's quite impressive. She grew up in the Chicago area, as I recall. Now she lives in Southwest Michigan, where she was with her two children. She's also an editor, and if you go to her website, which I think we put on screen, is She does professional editing, and you can also find her books, how to buy her books, through her website. She's also holds an MFA from Spalding University, and that's where I first met Marci. We were both newbies working on our MFAs, and she's come a long way since then. And so now I'm very proud and happy to have Marci as our featured reader today and as the featured writer in After Hours number 41. Here she is, Marci Rae Johnson.
Thanks so much, Al, and thanks for inviting me to read. Everybody, thanks for coming out to support After Hours. Well, coming out, sitting in your living room, watching us. As I was getting ready for this reading, I kept thinking about how many poems I've written about the difficulty we have connecting with other people. For some reason, I was inspired to grab one of my old college journals this afternoon, and even from 30 years ago, I was writing about this stuff. And it's, of course, striking me now that we have this pandemic, it's become even harder. And we all have this kind of built-in distance between us and others. So I'm finding myself writing even more poems on this subject. And I think as poets, we all have things we're obsessed with, right? That we come back to again and again, some kind of problem we're trying to solve. Well, this seems to be one of my major problems I'm trying to solve. So all the poems I'm going to read today address that in one way or another. The first one I'm going to read is published in the new issue. And this is based on a bridge I visited in Iceland in 2019, back in the days when we could travel. Remember those? And it's this bridge that goes between two tectonic plates that are slowly drifting apart. And I thought, what a perfect metaphor for the difficulty we have connecting with other people. So this starts with an epigraph that says, it is estimated that the tectonic plates drift around 2 centimeters a year, or 2 meters over a period of 100 years in opposite directions. So this is the bridge between continents, Reykjanes Peninsula, Iceland. We are continuously drifting apart. It can't be helped. When we come together, our edges seem to fit, but there's always a space between, even when it can't be seen. Here the evidence is clear. The river of black sand where the stones have worn down, volcanic rocks rising on each side of the rift, jagged grooves, a laceration, wound. What we say or don't say, raising our voices over the lava-scarred plain. There are no trees to stand in the way, no throng of bush or cloud to block the expanse of sky. Just a field of purple lupine, the occasional yellow poppy growing low in the shelter of boulder and moss, which I pick and place in my pocket, though I know I will forget and find it later, wilted, brown. We walk in the fissure's middle, though the signs warn against it, the bridge overhead a symbol. In the air, a tern I've never seen reeling to the blue of the Arctic Sea in the distance. It is not too far to walk. There's silent clapping. It's a little weird to read to a virtual audience. So this next poem is about texting, which what we rely on that and other digital forms of typed out communication a lot now, right? This is kind of like how much is lost in this form of communication. Undeliverable texts. It's impossible to know where these words go when I send them across the vast space between us. In the dark, the mountains are monsters from half-remembered dreams, though the photo of the sunset you sent looks like hope. What I wanted to see was your face, the crooked tilt of your lips, the gray flecking your beard, the way your eyes see beyond the surface of things. The days seem long as I wait for your return. What then will I find? Your arms around me? The scent of coffee and smoke and your skin impossible to describe. Your lips in my hair and the sun coming in despite the ache of winter in the air. That one also appears in the new issue of After Hours. All of us here in the Midwest, we're pretty tired of winter, right? And that's bringing yet another layer of isolation, right? I used to be able to have people over to my backyard or my garage, and I'm stuck inside staring at the snow all day. So a couple of these poems are going to be inspired by winter. And this one in particular is inspired by my daughter's sick betta fish. My daughter brought her fish home from college, and it was really sad. It wasn't doing well at all. But I'm happy to report the fish recovered. And it's back at her at college. So this is called Love Song with Dying Fish. Though the fish floating on its side at the top of the bowl seems no longer alive, it wakens to my hand against the glass and wants to eat again. What's left for it to live for in this small space, our only world? 1,000 miles away, you're drinking whiskey and thinking about not thinking, about the way the sky no longer rises fully to the sun. What is left to love? Perhaps the first December snow as it falls, the silence deeper than all the silences that have come before, a future not yet written. The way you disappear into the forest again, listening to nothing but the wind. I've noticed too that I tend to address people directly in my poems, so I'm sure that's another way of trying to solve this problem, connecting with other people. So this next poem is for my friend Jonathan. I wrote it after reading a draft of his memoir that he sent me. This is called Planetary Gong. It's a great day to give up on self-reflection, to enter the forest behind your house in silence and stand still. Nothing at the center but green and the freshly fallen leaves already curled at their edges, detritus of spirit and of song, the one we wanted to write but can't figure out how. In another continuum, we may walk adjacent through the woods, bathing in the sound of birds. You'll ask me to identify the bird with the particular scar, the one that visits the feeder but never stays. You'll ask me what kind of cheese I want with my wine and give me a gift, the acorn from your pocket you found while I was away. Perhaps the song was always being written, even before you leaned against the side of the mountain and learned that love always leads to loss. Before the house with its strange corners, the dreams of angels in the trees. I'm finding birds appearing a lot in my poems. I don't know if anybody else is having this issue, but I've become obsessed with birds during the pandemic. It's like one thing I can look at outside my view that changes. It's very exciting. This next one is for my friend Hannah, who has the weirdest lamp I've ever seen. She has this lamp that has the 12 apostles from the Bible on it in 12 panels, and they each depict how that apostle was martyred. Yeah, so pretty strange. So this is for Hannah. Holy Apostolic Lamp. Sorry, mistletoes, for leaving you hanging so long and without a kiss. And to you also, Christmas tree by the late January window, the birth of Jesus now so long ago. Who can remember anymore what happened to his hands, his feet, the nails and sword, the way the women who loved him watched from below, knowing this wasn't even close to the end. We're sure we're close to the end now, the empty streets, going to sleep covering our coughs with our hands, the silence going on, each one alone at the window looking out. When it's hard to sleep, turn on the lamp, the ones where the martyred apostles seem happy with their fate, their arms spread, palms out. Trace your fingers over the flame above each head and whisper in the language of your birth their strange German names. So that's another really strange thing about this lamp, is that it's all in German, and it's a Lutheran thing. I don't know if anybody's Lutheran here, but. All right, I've got 3 more. How about a summer social distanced one, which is also a hate poem to Facebook. I know we're all relying on social media, but we all kind of hate it, right? So this is called Hate List, Facebook and Summer 2020 Social Distance Visits. And some of these lines in here I stole directly from Facebook, and I don't credit anyone, because poets are allowed to steal. I hate how strawberries collect the dew, the houses we tore down before. Hope. I hate that work of art that has significance for me or you, the games everyone plays to keep the silence at bay. I hate interesting facts about birds, the thickness of your neck, how I used to watch you sleep when the night was so deep, not a single car passed. I hate stout dogs barking outside ice cream shops, the masks on strangers so I can never tell which faces I used to love. I hate small town siren testing, Robert Frost, the phrase from where I sit, and partially open chairs by the fire pit. I hate not knowing whether you're out smoking on the porch or writing that email to tell me you're sorry. Sorry. I hate that we're all in this together. Lean in, forgetting everything I read, having to breathe. Sorry, that ended on a really dark note. Also, I do really hate Robert Frost, and I will fight you. So another subject I'm obsessed with is apocalypse generally, because I grew up fundamentalist Christian, and it was all about apocalypse in the 70s. So yes, the pandemic is a sort of apocalypse, but I thought I'd read a different kind of apocalypse poem for you as well today. Across the lake, the clouds, orange and red and blue to clear flame of upper atmosphere, which indicates there is no heat higher. The world's on fire again. What to expect? Spontaneous ignition. 2,500 degrees flash over, under, our skin aflame, or is it just the sun setting behind the lake? Reflection of the skyline upside down in the strange light. The little rabbits swimming suggest an inclination for escape, departure, disappearance. The tiny silver fish half dead on the shore. And look, the dune, which you say is impossible to climb. Yet let's go ahead and try. What better place to view the world as it might end or begin? Stoichiometric condition, the perfect ratio of fuel to oxygen, enough air for the fire to consume. And one final poem, which also appears in After Hours. This is for my friend Bobby. One last poem about connection, disconnection. Two-body problem. It is impossible to predict the motion of these two bodies until they move close to one another. All those distractions, other systems of attention pulling one from the other, eccentricity of orbit. How I drive north on the highway away, stay in this silent house and watch from the window the sun as it makes its way along the horizon's edge, thin and gray. And you on your porch at night wondering if I'm awake, if I'm thinking about gravity, that central force that draws my body into yours, collision of skin and cell, of muscle that moves us together and apart. They say we were made of that previous generation of stars, billions of years to wander in the dark until one face turns to light the other, then each one a sun. Thanks.
Thank you, Marci. And I want to acknowledge that Marci was a little hesitant to read on Zoom, but here she is, and you did a great job, so thanks. It's not easy to perform to your computer. And thank you, everyone. We can all give Marci a little round of applause. And and I'd like to, everybody who's a contributor to the magazine, of course, you get a copy of the magazine. But for the folks who are out on YouTube, you can also order the new issue of After Hours at our website, afterhourspress.com. There's a link there that says buy online. It's kind of obvious. And I think it's always better to read poetry and short stories and be able to think about them. So, which is it's a lot harder to comprehend when you're just listening to a poem one time. So I hope you'll buy a copy of the magazine and enjoy all the great writers that we have in this issue. And I'd like to thank Pat Hertel, who's my co-editor, and Andy Byrne, who's our circulation person. Of course, Kurt Hines, who's the man behind the curtain making all this work. Whenever we get back to the real world, we also have a young guy who's our events coordinator, Luther Snagel, who's, I don't know if he's out on YouTube or where he's at, but he was hosting an After Hours open mic for us, which was getting off to a great start until the pandemic hit. But anyway, so we continue. I want to remind all the poets out there that the Mary Blinn Poetry Prize has a deadline looming, so send us your stuff. The new issue, of course, is out, and I think Andy's going to try and circulate the last issue as well, as much as we can, issue number 40, which was our 20th anniversary. So issue 41 means we're into our third decade. Pat, our third decade now of publishing After Hours. So I want to thank everyone for being here today, and thank you for joining us on YouTube. And Al,
can you hear me?
I can hear you, Pat. I don't know. Pat can say a couple words. She's on my phone.
I'd like to mention what are the prizes for the Mary Blinn Poetry Prize.
I know you're baiting me, and I have to try and remember. I think the winner gets $200 and the finalists get $50. So there's 3 finalists and a winner. And so if you join the contest, you can also read online about who Mary Blinn was. She was a very fine poet and a regular contributor to After Hours. But so that's the commercial, and we would like to also, again, thank you all for being part of After Hours number 41. And we'll say goodbye at that point. So thank you all.
Yes, thank you.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
Good
Lovely
night.
reading. Thank you.
Thank you.